See, you don't even realize it, but all you see is the Lester of now. You don't know the Lester of yesteryear. And yeah, even driving around Sonic, there was some way that I was able to work my magic. That sounds so dumb now. Hey, no matter what you want to say though, driving a young lady around Sonic, holding her hand, swooning her, is a whole lot better than swipe right, no, swipe left, ooh, swipe right. And then when someone replies to your swipe right, hey, what's up? That is what, no, if you're one of those people, don't you dare sit there and get on to me for the way I would swoon a woman by driving her around and around and around Sonic. Hey, Jamie.
Yeah, man.
Come over here.
Like there?
Come here and sit down beside me here, over on this side.
Oh my God, you want me to fall in? Oh.
I just thought maybe I could sneak you away from your mom for a minute. Sneak away from mom's house. Meet me here by the creek.
Oh, this is a rendezvous, is what you're saying.
I've just been trying to get me a smooch from you all week long.
You have.
So bring it in here. Bring it in here. Now, how you like that?
That's yeah.
Guess what I'm gonna do now?
I don't know. I thought you were gonna kill me.
No, I'm not gonna kill you.
Why do you have a screwdriver?
I'm gonna show you. Morning, folks. Lester here. Today we have a dilemma. Now, I'm going to show you exactly what's going on over here at Longhorn Lester's, and I can tell you already, I already know before I make a video the ones that are going to be very controversial. And even though it's not my intention to create controversy, I just know that a whole part of our goal of bringing you the good, the bad, and the ugly, sometimes there's things that we're not going to always agree with. And today I'm going to show you something that I already know is going to upset some people. And as a matter of fact, I myself am a little bit upset by it. But join me and we're going to walk around and try to figure something out here. I'm on the far side of the property, the one that you have not seen yet. This is the side of the property that you have yet to have much time on. And I'm walking towards what's going to be a little problem. All right, so we come to this spot over here where we're going to have a little bit of a dilemma, and I want to explain to you what's going on. I have to have a way to get across this little spring-fed creek. Now, it's not much to look at right now because it hasn't been upkept. That's going to change. But this is my property line. And this is where we're going to build a fence. You know, you build a fence down your property line. But my problem is to be able to have a fence that goes across this creek and to be able to have a way for our goats to cross over this creek, especially when the water's a little bit higher, is to put a culvert. We'll drop a culvert and I'll drop in a load of crushed concrete. So fine, to be able to get your lawnmower, your tractor, your side-by-side, or whatever you need across this creek to get over to mow and to work this side of the pasture, I'll have to have at least a 10-foot culvert. I've bought the culvert. I have the guys who are going to set it in the ground. So you're saying, Lester, I don't see the problem. I don't see the problem. Well, I think that you may see it and not even realize it. Now, anybody who's old enough, who've been around and lived through a very special time, will recognize what's going on here immediately. What you see in this tree are very, very old marks. These are marks that were put here by people. These are engravings. There was a time, my friends, when that was kind of a romantic and cute thing to do. People would come by and draw little hearts and they would put their initials. And even though this tree has grown up and, you know, gotten quite a bit bigger since those days. It's still, in a way, kind of an artifact here on the property. It has been very, very marked up. There have been a lot of couples come through here and write their names. Now, I'm sure those couples are long gone by now. You can barely even make out the initials. That looks like a JM. That was the heart. And then this looks like a Q and maybe an E. And then there's all kinds of things, y'all. All right, so I think that from this perspective right here, you can see what's going to be the problem. My 10-foot culvert will start right here at my property line, and it will go across 10 foot this way. All of this stuff will all be cleaned out of there. There'll be no need for all of this anymore. And we'll have that crushed concrete that'll go across the top. But this right here, with this not being 10 feet, that right there lies the problem. What does one do with such an amazing tree? A tree that's been here through so many storms. A tree that has had so many folks come by and jot down their initials on it. And with that, I'm torn. With that, I have a battle going on inside of me. One of nostalgia and just having just a really neat piece of history. And then another one is just knowing that for practical purposes, this tree is not in a good spot. I can't take my fence and move it across onto the neighbor's property, guys. That you just don't do that. You don't take and build a fence onto your neighbor's property. This is the only place along this very windy creek where there's already a path being cleared. There's already been a path being cleared, and the path has been cleared for that fence. Because you build a fence on your property line, guys, duh. And I didn't realize it until I got over here measuring. So, Mr. Pete, you haven't met him yet. He's a neighbor. And I'm going to call Mr. Pete and see if he'll walk over and we can talk about this together. All right, so what I've done is I've gotten my tape measure and I've marked off 10 foot. And so you can actually kind of see that the property line runs at about 7 foot. 7 foot, guys, is not wide enough to get. My four-wheeler would go by in about 4.5 feet. That's not a problem. But the tractor is going to require a full 8 foot just for the tractor. But any of your attachments, your bucket or your brush hog is going to be, I would say, closer to 9.5. And so that means that we'd have to extend and stretch over that far. That's 3 feet, guys, going over onto a neighbor's property. Now, here's what I'm going to talk to Mr. Pete about. I've asked him to drive over. It's hard to see his home. There's so many woods here, but he lives right up over there. And I'm going to ask Mr. Pete if I can arrange and work my fences to cut into his property a little bit. So instead of running this straight line over here, I'll actually at some point angle my fences over this way. So you can kind of see the angle that I'll make. And this angle, now, of course, you can't tell with this tree here, but that angle right there, if I cut this out of the way, would give me the angle that I need to get my tractor and equipment over here. It won't be pretty. You know me, I'm all about spatial reasoning and everything. But you know what? It'll hopefully be able to save this tree and save a big part of this history. And I've asked Mr. Pete, can I video? And he said, that's fine. So he wanted to get dressed first. I said, yes, please don't come out naked, Mr. Pete, because this is a family channel. While I'm waiting on Mr. Pete, you guys are probably wondering why they have that orange mark on this tree. And that's because whenever I came by the first time and told Mr. Ventura about this property line, and I gave him the CAD map to show where the county has the property line at, he measured off, and he was going to clear about a 4 to 6 foot stretch on each side. And I says, go wider than that, go about 10 feet. And so this over here, he came by first and he marked all of these trees for his guys to cut. And he even marked that one. And so I'm glad I got here when I did, because I remember back in December when we first walked this property, and Mr. Dub and Miss Sharon were walking us around. They were showing us different things. Mr. Dub walked me all the way over here. Now at that point, y'all, remember, all this was very, very thick woods. This over here looked like that right there. And Mr. Dub, he walked me over here to show me this tree. And because it's special to him, and of course, him and Sharon have their name on here somewhere, along with plenty of romantic couples who came down over the, almost at the millennia, but over the last 100 years or so. And think about that for a minute. Isn't that kind of cute? So picture this. I don't know exactly, the way you romanced back in your day. I don't know. All of us from different eras in time, we romanced in our own way. I would take my girlfriends and drive them around and around and around Sonic. I'd put the music on and we'd roll the windows down and I would hold their hand and I would parade them around and around Sonic. Hey, don't judge, because it wasn't just me doing that. That's where everybody in my school would go. That was the only fast food restaurant. They had a little loop of a circle drive, Sonic. No one would stop to order. There was no drive-through back in those days. It was only you had to pull in to order. You had your girls on roller skates who were delivering all the food, and it was the place to go. So that's how I would romance ladies. It worked. It worked. Before you sit there and roll your eyes, if you're a woman rolling your eyes, I'm going to say this. I'm not trying to brag. Don't even go there, because it worked. See, you don't even realize it, but all you see is the Lester of now. You don't know the Lester of yesteryear. And yeah, even driving around Sonic, there was some way that I was able to work my magic. That sounds so dumb now. Hey, no matter what you want to say, though, driving a young lady around Sonic, holding her hand, swooning her, is a whole lot better than swipe right, no, swipe left, ooh, swipe right. And then when someone replies to your swipe right, hey, what's up? That is no, if you're one of those people, don't you dare sit there and get on to me for the way I would swoon a woman by driving her around and around and around Sonic until we went somewhere else. Now, if you are from this era, now this is how I imagine it. This is how I imagine it. Now, I don't know this for a fact, but here's how I imagine it. For all these country folks that live up along this river, I think that when they were at school, these high school boys would say, hey, Darla, won't you meet me out at the, I don't know what they called this place. Won't you meet me by the, what kind of tree is that? Won't you meet me by the love tree after school? Okay, Billy. And I bet you, at some point, Darla and Billy would be coming from two different directions. And they knew their way through these woods, y'all. They knew their way through these woods. All the kids did. And they'd probably come over here. Now, I bet you this looked a whole lot different back then. But they probably sit here. I don't know where they'd sit. I'm trying to picture where they would sit. I bet you they'd walk over here somewhere. And I was going to say they'd probably take off their shoes. But I don't think they wore shoes back in those days. I don't think they wore shoes. So they probably would sit here and they would walk along this little spring-fed creek. They'd probably walk along here. And I bet the whole time Darla is probably doing like, oh, Billy. And she's like doing, you know how girls, like when they get romantic, they start doing their fingers and stuff like this. They start taking their fingers and twirling them around stuff, like their hair. And Billy's like, oh, shucks. And they're sitting there, Billy's like breaking stuff off, being a typical guy. Billy's probably like grabbing a stick and like you know, Billy's like taking them sticks, and he's all, you know how guys are, you know, stupid stuff. And Darla's being romantic, and Billy's trying to be a guy. And at some point, y'all, at some point, Darla and Billy made themselves over here. They made their way over here to this tree. That one right there. Now remember, all this wasn't here. This is stuff that Mr. Dub built trying to help with the erosion issue. This tree, though, was here. And at some point, here's what I imagine.
Hey, Darla, won't you walk over here and give me a kiss? Oh, Billy, you know we shouldn't even be over here. Girl, I ain't gonna tell nobody if you won't. Billy.
Now, I bet you Darla would make her way over there, and they'd probably have their first kiss right here. And guess what? After that happened, Billy would take out his pocket knife, because back in those days, all guys carried a pocket knife. And he'd probably take and he'd write his initials right there. Billy loves Darla. That's what I imagine. There's Mr. Pete. So this is my new neighbor, Mr. Pete. And Mr. Pete and his wife live over here in the house I was showing you a minute ago. And now Mr. Pete is over on the, depending on which way you look, over on the left side of me if I'm facing up towards the property. And Mr. Pete and I have just talked about what you and I talked about. And what were your exact words? You remember your exact words?
Yeah, there's nobody will ever know about this but me and you. That's all.
I love that as a neighbor. He says, you know what, Lester? No one's going to ever know about this except for you and me. And Mr. Pete says he's never going anywhere. He's going to die here, right?
Right.
Okay.
Right.
So let's hope that's not going to be for a
I got
very
my
long
burial
time.
plot right down the street.
He already got his burial plot down the street. So Mr. Pete and his wife live right over here. And we hope to meet her one of these days. She works. Mr. Pete's retired. I am semi-retired, so we'll be doing a lot of chumming around together, I know. But I want y'all to meet Mr. Pete, and I'm so blessed that he also feels the same way about that tree. And he has says, you know what? Do exactly what you talked about. Slide that fence over a little bit, and it's not going to be a problem whatsoever. Thank you, Mr. Pete.
You're welcome.
That makes me feel good. I've had to cut some trees down, but I haven't cut down one that people have stood beside.
Yeah.
Now, let me ask you another question. Now, you're older than I am by a little bit.
Yeah, a little bit.
Tell me about the old days. Tell me, I don't want to embarrass you, but I kind of imagine that at some point, maybe a guy and girl in high school would say, hey, meet me at the old... What kind of tree is that? Do you know?
No, I do not.
Is this embarrassing you at all?
Nah, I'm not.
I imagine that a high school boy might say, hey, meet me down by the old... Meet me by the creek. Meet me by the creek. The little spring creek.
You know, back in the old times... Before I came here, I've been here about, 30 years.
30 years,
First
y'all.
bought this property. I had the surveyor come here, and he cut a trail down both sides of it. And I saw that tree, and I saw the initials. And I asked the man, I said, what is this? You know, he says, I don't know. I have no idea. He said, but there's initials around that thing. There's another tree on the other neighbor's house that's got the same kind of initials on it.
There was a lot of little lover spots then.
Yeah.
Because I imagine a lot of things went down here, Mr. Pete. I don't know about the generation. I know there's a difference in generations. But I imagine a lot of smooching went on right here.
Hell yeah. I don't believe too many people, were going to go pay for a motel when they got all these woods. I mean,
Nope. Now, I wasn't going to go that far with it, but I'm glad he said it, not me. So if these woods if they had eyes, Mr. Pete, the stories they would tell.
Yep.
But that tree tells some stories, or at least in my mind, I can create some good stories, and it sounds like you can too. Well, it's a pleasure, Mr. Pete. Thank you so much for being a part of my video and for sharing my vision on trying to keep that tree alive.
Absolutely, yeah. Good. Like I said, this is our property. Mine and yours. Do
there
whatever you want.
Oh, I love that, Mr. Pete. Thank you. Thank you. There goes Mr. Pete. Guys, we are blessed in so many ways. Listen, a lot of ways. I told you that, the land in itself is a blessing. We've talked about that so many times. The pasture, the wooded land here, the spring-fed creek. Guys, look at this. I know it looks dirty, and it probably is, just from the leaves and whatnot. But this is spring-fed water. I'll try to walk up and find the actual spring. I don't know where it comes out at, but this is beautiful water, which means it'll never run dry. Oh, well, looky here. Look what I just discovered. There's one spring right there that runs from under all that mess right down here. I'm sure there has to be more than that because the water is still flowing this direction. So somewhere further up there would be another spring. But we are blessed with really good people as neighbors. And that is a really nice thing to have in this day and age. I'm so happy I'll be able to save that tree. And that Mr. Pete there is going to allow that to happen. Guess who came to visit me? It's been a long day, and Jamie's come to check up on me. And I'm going to show her something.
And he's checking up on.
I got something to show you, girl. I can drive and give at the same time.
Yeah.
Hold on back there, love.
Aww. Aren't you romantic?
Well, you ain't seen nothing yet. So, I don't know if you know this or not, but kids just like you and me, probably a lot smoother than you and me.
Probably a lot
Have
smoother.
been coming here for a long time, doing just this thing right here, making their moves on each other.
Right here in this spot.
You know how I know that?
How?
Give me that camera. Come over here.
Oh, I see a heart right here.
You see a heart. More on this side. Look at all this.
What is that?
I don't know. It's something.
It looks like genitalia.
Jamie,
It does.
it's not a dingaling.
What?
Ain't no one carving dingalings on this tree.
I didn't know.
Never mind. Just go with me on this one.
Okay, back to romance. I got it.
I think you just ruined my moment.
I did not.
I think you just ruined my moment.
Are you gonna put a heart around that too?
Just created another dingaling. I've just created another dingaling. We got another ding dong.
Oh my God, no, it's okay.
L plus J
It
with a
looks
ding
good.
dong.
No, it looks great. I love it.
There you go.
Thank you.
All right, give me a kiss. Come, bring it in.